May comeback kid na ulit tayo ba? Last time si Chad Gould.
Oo nga, tama.
May comeback kid. Namiss natin siya for one episode.
Oo.
But this time, medyo iba yung...
2 weeks.
2 weeks pa na yan. 2 weeks. Medyo iba naman yung ano niya ngayon.
Capacity.
Oo, capacity. Kumbaga, he's returning as a formal guest.
Yes.
Of FTW.
And I think our highest ranking guest in the PFF so far.
So, mataas na yung inabot pa natin. So, slowly we're getting there. So, we present to you Mr. Roy Moore. So, Mr. Roy Moore, being the media officer of the Philippine ASCALs during the Philippine Football, Philippine Football Peace Cup. How was the experience coming from a hosting gig here to be a media officer there? So what was the main difference?
Very little really. It's a very informal thing. There was me, Eco, and Craig who were doing the media officer jobs, the roles there. It's really the things that I was doing now, just doing the press conferences, organising a little bit with the media. So it's a very, very simple thing. But the tournament itself was great. It was really enjoyable. I mean, being there, I got to talk to the coach of Guam quite a lot. He's a really nice guy, Gary White, and probably the next Taiwanese manager. The next coach. So it just got a lot closer to the people who are behind the teams.
So eto, gusto malaman, since close siya dun sa ASEAN, yung chismis. Chismis,
diba?
Sige. So how was the team during the Peace Cup outside the field, diba?
So we're not even going to talk about the Peace Cup.
Just one quick, diba?
What,
any feedback or any juicy gossip?
Well, the press conferences really gave it all. Vice was very upfront about the problems with Young Husband, with Sabio, with those being the main two issues. He's pretty public with the discussion there. But the Peace Cup itself was good. It was nice to see a different setup with the ASCALs.
Yes,
Obviously, without most of the players who were abroad. I think all of the players, right, were playing in the UFL.
Yep.
So that's a very, very different look. That might be the first time, I think, definitely since the last Suzuki Cup, where it's been a fully homegrown team. In the sense that they're all playing in the local league.
Right.
So that's very interesting. And obviously 3 wins out of 3, first time a country has done that. That's great.
Kasi yung coming from where we left off
last week.
Nung medyo one-on-one tayo, wala kasi siya. One-on-one tayo. We were talking about call-ups for the national team.
That's right.
So we were talking about, this is a good challenge for PFA, for the national team also, for those players who are not really given that enough playing time. So or those na hindi pa kilala. Like for example, we also Demit Omfroy. He was a great player.
Played very well.
And how old is he? He's really young pa, diba? Around early 20s. 24.
OJ Porteria, of course. Also came off the bench and scored. So
Siyempre, Marvin also. Nagkasabay pa sila last game nila, di ba? And siyempre si Marvin gumaling pa kasi meron siyang professor doon, si Anto Gonzalez, kasabay niya. So,
takot lang niya.
Takot lang niya doon, di ba? Hindi pwede mas condition sa kanya yung mas matanda, di ba? So,
sinasabi mo matanda si Anto?
Mas matanda nga eh. No, but we also the other players who really hindi ko sasabihin outdid themselves, but really nagpakitang gilas. That's the perfect term for that. And I think this will give the team management a lot of choices in terms of for example, yun nga yung mga ibang players outside the countries that can't commit to the schedule.
Yeah, that's really what it was about, trying to find the backups for players who may not be there. Really test some of the players. It was really a tale of 2 strikers in a sense.
That's right.
Literally 2 strikers.
Against Guam 1-0, the ASCALs had 19 shots total. Only 10 of them were on target and 1 was scored. Both Wolf and Araneta had so many chances. It really should have been more than that. Against Macau, for Araneta it was the same story, but now Wolf actually managed to get a hat-trick. and finally against Taiwan. To be fair, Taiwan really gave the game to the Philippines. The defensive errors were ridiculous. And then even the Philippines' goal was also a defensive error, the one for Taiwan. It was the same story, I guess, for most of the countries there. Taiwan were missing about 15 players, according to a guy called David Kami. He should be the next Taiwan coach. So particularly their young captain is called Chen Po-liang. He's 24 also. And he plays in China for Shenzhen Ruby. So he's really good quality, but he couldn't make the tournament either. So Taiwan were missing a lot of players. Guam are looking to the MLS for a few more players, so they'll be getting stronger and stronger. They should now be very, very similar in ranks. They're going to be the highest ever rank, Guam. And they're a very, very up and coming team. So they're ones to keep your eye on. Macau, well, they really only have 2 non-amateur players. So, I mean, they did really well. They got the first point against Taiwan. That was the first point they've ever got in the Long 10 Cup / all the other names that it's got.
Wala nang Polino.
Was it Palino Alcantara Cup, Palino Calderon Peace Cup, Philippine Peace Cup, Philippine Football, whatever you eventually call the competition, now the Philippine Football Peace Cup.
Finally.
Finally. That's really the story of it. The question now, though, is how do the Azkals go from here? They're playing against 3 countries who, on paper, they should definitely beat. Even with the squad they have, they should have beaten anyway.
Yes.
So the question is, how do they go from here? How will they transition to the camp in the Middle East? Who's going to be in there? And then, obviously, Singapore later on. Because the win against Singapore, they were facing a much, much weaker Singaporean squad. So the one in November should be a real test how Singapore really are, and that'll be a good test. Philippines versus Singapore, who will be there?
So last ko lang, given 3 games which would you consider the best game for the Philippines and why? Yun lang. So syempre Mr. Roy Moore being our guest, honorary guest. So we should start.
Simply for the clinical side of things, Macau, not because they scored the most, but because it was a different story. I mean, against Taiwan, they were really gifted the 3 goals. All 3 goals were pretty poor defensively. But against Macau, the Azkals had 17 shots and 14 on target. So it was a much, much better ratio, and Wolf finally came out. And that might be the turning point for him, because he had 1 goal in, I think it was 5 or 6 proper international appearances before then, and he really needed a goal with all the chances. He missed so many against Guam as well, and so he's really lacking the confidence. So now perhaps that'll be the turnaround. He may be a really good role for that, and what I'd like to see from now on is maybe Wolf playing that attacking midfielding role as he did previously, and then maybe Angel coming up top, and that could be the strike force they're looking at in the absence of Phil.
I would agree. In fact, to be fair, it would have easily. Macau, of course.
Pare-pareho tayo ha.
Again, outside of the very tremendous, scoreline in favor of the Philippines. In fact, it would have easily been 6-0, 7-0, 8-0.
Nakita ko yung tweet mo
diba?
Umabot ka pa ng 9 eh.
Hanggang 8 para. Pero yun, diba? I mean, easily, it could have been.
The chances were.
There were really good chances, and we're seeing the right guys stepping up. To be fair, it has been a good testing lab for Coach Michael Weiss, to be testing all of these possible formations and scenarios, as you said. And it's very important. While yes, these are definitely lower ranking teams, it's an important test coming into more than just the Middle East training camp, and the friendly with Singapore. Of course, the Suzuki Cup, and like we said before, we are grouped with 2 teams, to be sure, Thailand and Vietnam, whom sides we've never played since, at least Vietnam, since 2 years ago. So it's
although if I could quickly mention the awards.
Teka, ako na eh. Ako muna. Sige na kasi. Mention mo na. As a guest, I only mentioned the awards na rin.
So I thought as a host you were just asking me.
No. Because I wanted to share my sentiment, but it's okay being the guest.
Well, just quickly mention the awards because it was great for Jeffrey Christians to get defender of the tournament. He really deserved that. And then Wolf obviously scoring the most goals. Every year the Long 10 Cup, it's been 4 goals has been the top scorer. Araneta 2010, Chifi 2011, Wolf. I was surprised though to see the midfield go to Matthew Oy, because he's still out of shape.
Yeah, exactly.
But he played well. He's got a lot of potential. It'll be excellent. But I was surprised to see that go there. and particularly goalkeeping. Ed Sacopano as the goalkeeper, because watching all the games, I really saw particularly the Guam.
Guam.
He had so many good saves.
Yes,
And really, that should have gone there. I was very, very surprised. Not least because all of the awards went to the Philippines, which was a little.
Pero wala tayong sinasabi.
It was very surprising and
Wala tayong
almost
sinasabi.
embarrassing.
Guys, baka ma-cybercrime tayo. Ingat. Ma-cybercrime tayo.
Given the midfielder award.
Yeah, who? I choose Marwin.
Possibly he made a lot of good chances. The low brothers for Taiwan were pretty decent. The twins,
Marwin or the midfield for Guam, I forgot. Who the midfield for Guam. It's not Jason, is it?
Oh, Ryan Guy.
Yeah. Them as well.
Maybe he didn't get the playing time.
Yeah.
He's a very good player.
But anyway, for me,
Oh, sige, ikaw na.
Yes. Macau, why?
Iba naman paliwanag.
Wala nang oras.
kasi Dennis Wall finally learned how to pull the trigger.
Yes.
Oh my
yes,
God.
yes.
Anyway, do tweet us your reactions to all the games and to your reactions to the awards. Ingat lang, ma-cybercrime tayo. So, do follow us on Twitter at FTW Sports.